about to start. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are around the world. It's been fun on this side because my guest today is Troy McFadden. He's in Bali, I'm in Thailand, and the internet is just giving us some fun and games here. And we're trying to see how we can do this so that the recording goes smoothly. Troy's turned off his camera, hoping things will flow. So you will see me, you will hear me, and in some cases it is just a recording that you will just hear. But let's see how it goes, everyone. So as I said, today is my Troy's turned on his camera again. Today is my guest, Troy McFadden. He's in Bali, I'm in Indonesia. So without much ado, I'm going to let him introduce himself and how he's through his spiritual journey and where he is today. So much, Troy, take it over.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me and the trust that's involved in you sort of receiving me here, and the playfulness in which you're dancing with these logistics. I think it's a nice way for us to get to know each other, is how we deal with challenge, right?
Yes, it is. It very much so.
So it's a big question, how did my spiritual journey begin, and what has been the growth arc, might be one way to put it, etc. There's certainly been like several major ones and lots of minor ones. Arguably every day has a few has a few bell curves in it. I've certainly come to believe that this has happened many, many times. So this is my latest reincarnation. And I incarnated into very challenging circumstances. A lot of difficulty. Now, on one level, obviously and otherwise, I have almost every single conceivable privilege you can have as a human being on this planet. It's ridiculous. It's an embarrassment of riches. And while I don't feel guilt as part of my challenge with that, on the surface, things look like they would be easier for me than virtually everyone else. Does that make sense?
Yes, we're hearing you. Can't see you, but we're hearing you.
Okay, good. I'm gonna play with the camera a bit and turn it on occasion, just for those that might be watching. And then if I feel like the connection isn't good, I'll turn my camera off again. How does that sound?
Yes, but it'd be good if we could see you.
Okay, understood. So just to be more specific, I came into the world with a dysfunctional family situation. And there was criminality, there was abuse, there was addiction, there was poverty, there was, the whole generalized mess of nest is what I meant to say, but it was also a mess that comes with being at a certain level in a certain position socioeconomically, regardless of perceived race or anything. And that was a rough start. That was a very rough start. And I came into the world a very sensitive, very receptive person, very gentle, I think naturally quiet, introverted. And then I came into these really, really difficult circumstances. So from the beginning, even if I didn't come into this world with a predisposition to like dive into spirituality, I certainly had every reason to, because everything around me was fraught with enough suffering that I'm like, look, I don't know what else there is, but it's got to be more than this. It's got to be better than this. And so from a very early age, like many, many people that are spiritually inclined or whatever, we have a lot of suffering combined with a lot of sensitivity and, trying to find our way out of the lower chakras. And often, this is one of the side effects we often contend with. As soon as we get out of those lower chakras, we often become very top heavy. We hang out on the upper ones. We don't want to go back down there. And then that causes imbalance. But of course, eventually we have to. And that's certainly been part of my journey as well.
I hear you.
And, there's many things I could point to as far as, significant times in my life that, were potent with growth, challenge and growth. Of course, one's the flip side of the other. But what's most present for me is the relative present, is the present and the recent past. And I think that might be, the most beneficial thing to speak to and to share.
Okay, good.
Hard to find where to begin, because of course everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
But I'll just start here. I was in service, had a yoga teacher training, yoga events business with my partner. Very much felt that I was involved in right livelihood, making my own way in the world, not needing to compromise integrity or authenticity, and kind of had it figured out. And my experience in life is that one thing kind of naturally lends itself to the next. So I've been able to flow with it. I acknowledge that only because I have a lot of privilege, that's been possible.
Yeah.
And I started to feel myself shifting out of the yoga world, and I had an opportunity to coach. At first, it was like small group mindfulness coaching, great. Then it shifted into applying those things in a corporate context. And I started to lose my way. I started to experiment with deviating, with working for someone else that wasn't in alignment with my own values and priorities, despite what they shared. I started encountering a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of unacknowledged shadow side. And that would be fine if it was like business as usual, because the bar is set very low and no one really expects more than that. But in an organization that claimed it was a consciousness enhancing and consciousness raising organization, it just went from uncomfortable to nauseating.
Ouch.
And yeah. And so here I am, like technically in service, technically involved in, as I think I said before, right livelihood, certainly doing my very best to give the best of myself and to share, but finding myself limited. And yeah, there was like on the surface, like freedom to like support people where they were at and everything. But of course, I was working with like hyper capitalists, as I would call them, people from emerging economies who still think capitalism is cool because, yeah, compared to like having your spiritual traditions ripped away from you and, all the suffering and poverty and everything. Yeah, capitalism probably does seem cool. I get it. But I find myself like propping up these hyper capitalists and corporate slaves and trying to bring in some rays of light and sunshine and mindfulness, but into this world that like they're not going to change. They're really not going to change. So there's a certain amount of non-attachment that you have to practice, and also a certain amount of like frustration. And it's like, and just such discomfort. This is not me serving the evolutionary impulse of the universe. And there was a lot of talk about that, but in reality, things have just gotten worse and worse. Now, 4 white men own like 70% of the earth, and I'm barely exaggerating. It's horrible.
I like the way you just think that, because it's so true. And I think a lot of people do not understand what's going on and what's going down in this world. And it is just a few people who control the whole earth. And by that, we're saying monetary, because everything is money. The buildings, the banks, the institutes, and our big institute, our world institutes are controlled by them. And it's time we wake up to it and realize that money is everything. Troy, take away. I'm so glad you said that.
My heart feels warm and is sort of swelling with joy that resonated with you, because I'm just tuning in and letting things flow through me as much as I can. Yes, absolutely. We really have to wake up if we are going to survive, and if we are going to like make any attempt at salvaging what I believe is our role to be stewards of all the other life on this planet. Like we are going to, the ecosystem is going to completely collapse, and all of the systems are going to collapse anyway. The monetary system is one of them. Politically, socially, we absolutely have to change. And that will come only with a very significant shift of consciousness among at least a minimum amount of people. But again, relatively speaking, a significant portion, but it doesn't certainly need to be a majority. You know, it's that 100th monkey thing. If enough people wake up, you know, everyone else will go along with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take, but as part of that awareness and as part of that realization, we invented money. It's a total fraud. It's a total scam. And we've all enslaved ourselves to this ridiculous false belief.
Yes.
And yes, please.
I'm coming in here to support you. Oh, I love you. I love you. We will keep connected. Honestly, I am coming to support you because people really need, and this podcast is not spiritually, but when you start to become awakened spiritually, you start to look around and your values change. And what was so significant in what you said 5 minutes ago is working with these corporate people. And it sounds nice to do yoga and enlightening, but I don't really want to, because they're going to have to let go of all that money and all that wealth and all that attitude that comes with it. I'm not saying you have to be poor. We were never meant to be poor and struggling, but our values have to change. We're meant to live, each and every one of us, a very rich, loving, kind, thoughtful, caring, everyone. That doesn't mean a few in their billions, the rest of us struggling to keep them in their billions. No, we have to change. And when we change, trust me, there's enough to go around for everybody on this earth to live a very, when I say rich, I mean rich in you should be having beautiful homes, have beautiful education, not about money, but life, about the planet, culture, about human beings. Different way. I think I better stop here because I'm starting to. I let you talk.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm openly receiving it all, and I just kind of want to like maybe go a little deeper with that, or just kind of riff on it at least. Not suggesting that you weren't deep there, but to get a little more extreme and radical, because I've sort of cobbled this together from feedback, but I'm using this descriptive term for myself as a radical socialist, psychedelic, hippie, gypsy jester. So just think of someone like that working for a leadership institute. I mean, the cosmic humor in that is just completely absurd. But I'm like looking at the absurdity and trying to work with it. And it's like, yeah, but if I can bring something from your perspective way over in left field and bring this to share with you in this realm, but like it's just so the Matrix. It's like, you know, it just wasn't gonna work. But a lot of well-intentioned people think it will, and spiritual bypassing and rationalization and justification and all these games people are playing to be in it. I'm like, this is not right. It's just not right, period. It's not right for me. But like, what are we doing here? Like, I ask people, like, you have children, you know, like the world's on track to be a giant ball of mud in like 20 years. And this is what you're doing? This is what you're doing with your life? This is where you're putting your life force?
Yes. They don't understand.
Or they bought into this belief that this is just what you do. This is, you know, and hey, that's that. And this is business. And, you know, we hear all of this. They're a horrible person, but they're a good businessman or whatever like that. It's insane. It really is like massive insanity. So not to belabor the point here, but I went through a real crisis, and it was a real dark night of the soul as I had to summon my courage and try to start breaking away. Now, one of the many promises, essentially, or at least I was led to believe, that like this prosperity and all this wealth that I was surrounded with, and some of the founders of this organization and the people we worked with, these CEOs or whatever, you know, like it was going to be shared. Never made a living, constantly in this like financially precarious position, which is one thing, but when you're around all this wealth and you see like no one sharing it, it just makes the whole being out of alignment thing all the worse. So it was just really, really gross. And yet I was staying in it because I needed to survive. And I'm getting older and I'm like transient, and you know, I couldn't easily like pivot or just pick up something again or whatever. And you know, it got even worse, where I was trying to break away, but the only experience I had is in business coaching. Then I started being involved in these like big platforms that are online, and they're basically taking advantage of like huge numbers of overqualified, overeducated, and underengaged coaches, even like formally trained ones, and paying them less and less and asking more and more of them. And then the people I was encountering in these realms were struggling. They were with a lot of really big companies and just in these hell realms. And so I'm in a hell realm, you know, blind leading the blind. Like, you know, I'm in a hell realm. I'm trying to get out of it. You're in a hell realm. Like, you know, I've been wounded in battle. I'm trying to drag you up the battlefield. You're wounded in battle. Hell realm.
Oh, I love you, Troy. Keep talking, because it's reality.
Thank you. It's very freeing. It was my experience. It's my experience and observation, you know. And then, you know, of course, as well, what happened is my self-confidence was really rattled, but my self-esteem wasn't that affected, which was a wonderful thing to behold. It's like, I know what I am. I know my true nature from all the practices and whatever, you know, plant medicines, whatever. Like I know the underlying reality here, but also like, how is that helping me now? Like, it doesn't seem to be like manifesting outwardly. And I want to go back to what you had said before. Absolutely, every human on this planet is meant to live in prosperity and harmony and abundance with a minimal amount of challenge and suffering, enough so that we can grow. But let's look at it. There's food all over the ground, hanging from the low branches and trees. We have love, we have sex, we have dancing, we have music, we have food. It's inherently a wealthy, prosperous, abundant existence. And money has become the great separator, despite what we tell ourselves. Oh, it's lifting people out of poverty. The hell it is. It's a fraud, it's a scam, and it's one of the most horrible, self-destructive things we have done to ourselves, if not the most.
Yeah, you are. I'm with you all the way. Yes, there's everything there for us, but we don't see it simply because we've been led down a garden, in a wrong garden path, to a garden that's not very nice. And it's time to
yes.
turn back onto a proper path, to the proper garden, where we have our morals, we have our dignity, we have our consciousness, and above all, our spirituality of how we should live, and, you know, being connected to the right spiritual source, because a lot of them connect to the correct spiritual source.
Yes, I'm just thinking it's like the anti-Garden of Eden. You know, we've been led to like Lucifer's plant kingdom or something, you know, yes. And it's just all this weird, bizarro world. And then people start to believe it. Well, that's just human nature. It's like, it's not. Actually, what it is working very, very hard with free will, you know, on the level we have it, to work against our essential nature, to twist it around. It is not our essential nature at all.
No. Oh, I love you.
Thank you so much. It feels really good. And so, at one point, like things started getting really tough, and I was going from like what I like to call a semi-functional life, because like I can dip in and out of the matrix and just kind of live on the fringes, and I've lived this very unconventional alternative life, So, I don't have to like necessarily get up and go to work every day or anything like that. But that semi-functional started to like become dysfunctional, and then it started to be, kind of like my airplane started to skid on the runway, and it was becoming like non-functional. And I'm like, because I'm just my soul is sick, or maybe more accurately, my soul is just fine, but that which is surrounding it is getting sick, and I can't sustain this.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find ways out, and I'm reaching and I'm grasping and I'm doing this and that, and just nothing is quite taking. And I'm like, wow, is this going to be my existence? Because it certainly could be. There's like an infinite number of trajectories your life can have. And it could be, oh, that's just how someone could sort of peak. And then I'm going to just be like living this marginal existence. It seemed weird. It didn't seem like that was like my destiny. I imagined something very different, but okay. Part of my practice is to just kind of surrender to it and allow it to be. At the same time, I'm like, I'm not meant to live without my burners lit. I'm not meant to live without fire and passion. And, what's the distinction between letting go, non-attachment, and really being engaged and fully living, however that looks.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, at one point, like I love Mexico, by the way, so I want to preface what I have to say with that. But I found myself living in Mexico in part because it was cheaper and accommodating for me, but living quite cheaply even in Mexico. And like, sitting there with like this marginal internet connection, like in this kind of barely suitable environment, watching an increasing amount of cockroaches start to enter through the cracks. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like in my mid 50s, and like, this can't be it. This cannot be it. And wow, I mean, there's so many things I could say about this. A very good friend of mine from the States invited me to come to Vienna. And he said, look, man, I'm doing good and I will help you. I believe in you. I know what you are. I know. And he is this like amazing man. And we have a lot in common, but we're also very different. Like, I'm from out in the West Coast. He grew up in Harlem, very poor, with a very radical family. And honestly, like what he had to give me and what he had to share, I could not have heard it from someone that wasn't him. And in part because he was a black man from my country, because I know how it is. And he's like, look, it's always been, you're having a hard time. It's always been that way for us. So the best I can, right?
Yeah.
So the best I can do, it's always the end of days for some, basically. But he's just fiercely lion-hearted, and he's like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I know who you are at your core. And he just held out his arm and just pulled me up, and he like took care of me and helped me get back on my feet. And then I started like tuning into like, okay, I can be perceived other than like how other people are perceiving me. Because in that organization I was part of, I felt either I felt looked on as a resource on occasion, or a threat, or irrelevant. And here was somebody that knew me differently. I know your essential self. I know your soul. I know you when you were thriving. And this, I'm not going to buy into this temporary blip that you might be buying into in part.
I hear you.
So slowly, and it's taken a long time, and it's taken a lot of help by people like him and family. And it's also involved me finding a new relationship with the idea of manifestation, what it really means to manifest. And as hard as it was, and painful as it was, and absurd as it seemed, I'm like, I'm going to take out some time here, kind of as a form of prayer, to sit and conjure and allow myself to experience what it would be like to actually meet my needs. And all of my needs are just a state of consciousness, and all states of consciousness are in me. So yes, it looks insane around me. It seems like a foolish endeavor, but what would it feel like to have this experience? It might take this form, it might take that form, but what would it be like to actually feel comfortable and safe and financially secure and engaged again and all of that? Looking back, a little bit went a long way, because that was an aspect, and I'm deepening into it even now. And this is part of what I want to share, is like how valuable it is. There's a lot of silly stuff that's attached to it, and prosperity gospel and all of this stuff, but there's truth in all of it. And if we find our own way and our own relationship to, like, hey, there's wants, there's needs, and I have an idea of what those needs are, but that's not actually the thing. Like, do I need money? No. What I really need is to feel comfortable and safe and secure and not afraid. And that's all in me. That's all my decision, no matter what it might seem like. Now, I understand that can be very problematic, and I want to touch on that, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I like when you said that you're meeting all your needs, and that there's certain things that we need, and you hear it from very deep people that I've listened to, and you said the same thing again. It is about, what do you want? And it's about your feeling. It's not money. Although we need money because we're living in a world that says you need money. But actually, what is it that we need? We need to feel happy. We need to feel safe. We need to be confident. We need to live in a beautiful home that makes our spirits just feel good, whatever that looks like to the individual. It's how you feel, what makes you feel. And when you put that, how it comes is a different thing, because it may not come in the way you think it's going to come.
Doubtful.
And so thank you so much for saying that. I had you back.
Oh, thank you. A very important thing to bring forth. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that. Like, I'm going to engage in creative visualization, and we do need to do that. That's part of it. And getting into the details, the more details, the better. But don't be fooled into thinking that's how it's going to manifest. That's just what allows our consciousness to focus on the essence of it. And then it's up to divinity to figure out, how it's all going to line up. But it's like, we're all God's children. Yes, I hear you. Yes, I'm going to take care of you. Give me a moment. I'm kind of busy, but everything's going on behind the scenes. And it's as soon as possible, as soon as things line up, and that includes us being open and receptive enough to receiving, it will be there. Now, again, I understand this is incredibly problematic, and I am probably one of the worst sort of like spokespeople for this, because I do have so many obvious advantages in my life, but it's no less true or untrue for that matter. So when I say this, I'm like, so are all those children in Gaza then responsible for their own experience of life? And on and on. And this gets into a very sticky subject of karma, and it's also, and I saw this again in like the coaching organization I was part of and the clients of the organization. You can justify and rationalize just about anything. And the more money or power or whatever you have, the more you can justify just about anything. Yes. And it's horrible, and it's actually a sickness. It is. At the end of the day, to understand anything in its truth, you have to reconnect to source and ask the questions, and you'll get the truthful answer, not the answers that others want to justify and give you. Well said. So there's a paradox in part to kind of be with here, and I'm not going to claim that I understand the mystery, But I do sense that there is some reason everything is unfolding, and the microcosm of our own suffering is also the macrocosm of the world. And it's not to excuse or ultimately we have to forgive, but it's not to excuse or allow or support, even passively, even with complacency, the horrors that are going on the planet right now. But I'm just doing my part to try to align with the laws of the universe, or whatever you want to call them. So I'm skipping ahead a bit here because I've kind of gotten like lost in these early and middle chapters.
It's okay.
In a relatively short period of time, at a surprising pace, even considering the kind of ups and downs and the wild rodeo ride of my life, I'm in a very, very different situation. Suddenly, there has been a certain amount of financial security unexpectedly come through, and that was unexpected by all involved. There's been a rekindling of my relationship and a fortifying of it. It seemed like my partner and I were sort of coming apart for various reasons, and there just came a point like, we're going to recommit to this or it's going to start to fade away, and that's what happened. And here I am in Bali, a place I've lived in the past, coming back to it, a place that like we were successful on different levels, an affluent, engaged, colorful, dynamic community of movers and shakers and some incredibly wonderful people. And so I'm starting to be engaged again. I'm taking certain aspects of my coaching and combining it with other more holistic, healthy, vibrant spiritual elements, and just coming alive again. So I'm having this like rebirth. I'm coming out of the dark night of the soul into like this renaissance period of my life. And there's so much love and joy that's flowing through me. And I'm saying a lot of what I've said because this is not coming from like someone who just like, I have it good, I read this spiritual book and I think this is cool now. This is not the perspective of a Pollyanna. I've gone through the ringer many times, and this is what's happening now. And this seems to be the reasons that it is happening, or at the very least, what is possible, no matter how difficult our situation is, no matter how little light that seems to be getting in, anything and everything can. This is the truth of the universe. Anything and everything can happen in any given moment, and in fact is happening every given moment. And we have a certain part to play in it. We have to go through it without having the consciousness. We have to wake up. There's an enormous amount of discomfort, etc., in it, and then we have to do the work, whatever it is, let go in order to like align with it. This is just part of the journey of like coming from unity to separation and back to unity, or so it seems.
You are absolutely right. It is about, we do need to, unfortunately, go through a lot, and it's like a cleansing. It's like a tearing away, and it is a cleansing because you can feel it, and your higher self, which is inside, is struggling to get out, and it has to tear away a lot of the things that at first was probably we thought was life and how it should be, but now realizing this is not how it should be. And because we're in that society and around those people, we have to tear it and break away from it, and that is where it can be uncomfortable, and we have to start again. And like you said, you hit rock bottom, Mexico, cockroaches, all kinds of things. But somebody, because you knew people before and they knew who you really were, and that person was connected and shaken by spirit to put their hand out and help you. And they did that because your soul and their soul connected. And as that Black person, we know what it is to be downtrodden, to really have to climb up because society says we're nothing. We know how it feels. And what a lot of people don't understand is that as Black people, as much as we know how it feels, We're not out to then say, everybody, we're going to crush it because what you did to us. No, we generally say we know how it feels. And when we see somebody who's going through, we have that compassion, no matter what color, whatever, we can see it. And we will stretch our hands out to help, because we're all coming from the Creator. And we all have to, all should be getting there. Doesn't matter what color, religion, it's what is inside. And it's the people that you know that is having that is stretching out and helping you. That's so beautiful.
Likewise, again, incredibly well said. And it's a tribute to the hard-earned wisdom that comes from being, well, any group that's othered in this world. Obviously, you know, Black people throughout the world have that in common. It's also a tribute to the incredible dignity, and this sounds like a positive stereotype, but by and large, a deeper connection to soul. Because
Yeah.
I can just speak for like white people here, you know, like we're stuck in our heads. Maybe at most we're like in our bodies, but we're in our bodies in this kind of mechanistic, rigid way. A few people have, you know, good heart, but it's rarity. And in a way, it's been this like weird luxury to like have the luxury of not being connected to, like, because you're a human. Like this is you need everything firing on every level. You need to be in touch with your soul and spirit and your heart to like live, you know. So it's a weirdism among other things. But yeah, and you know, and this friend I'm referring to, he kind of called me out on it. He said, you know, Troy, you've been able to live in this certain amount of idealism. You know, I haven't had that luxury. Like, these are my words here, but he's like, basically, I have to be pragmatic. This is how it is. I didn't make it like this. I wouldn't choose it like this. I'm gonna be involved in it in the highest way I can, but I'm not gonna fight it or resist it, because I can't even take care of myself, like in a way that like I deserve to be taken care of, again, as a child of God.
Yeah.
As an aspect of divinity. And it's like, it was like, he kind of tough loved me. He's like, you gotta get over yourself, you know, because you're gonna have to grow up. I'm not saying abandon your principles, but like, hey, you know, you can't just be a California hippie the rest of your life. Like, you gotta come back down to earth and like, you know, hey, you gotta get it together. And
Yeah.
bless him for it, you know. And he's just what a brother, what a friend, you know. And so it's been a lot of things that have brought this back, and it's happening with greater abundance and greater delight. I've had long-term health issues, and those are minimized at the moment, you know, as a result of just feeling better. And they were probably exacerbated. I was looking for a fancy word. They were exacerbated by not feeling well, despite me doing a lot of things on the physical level. And you know, and there's one of the delights of it is this is like, I know that it's early in the process. I also know like all kinds of shit awaits me in the future. You know, it's going to be plenty to deal with. But right now, like, I know how good I have it, and I have the benefit of experience of life, and I'm owning it, and I've done my share of the work to get me here. But there's just a more widely opened heart, a deepened humility that goes with it.
You just said you've had some you've gone through a lot, yes, and you've had some health issues, but you said it's improved. And I just want to touch on that and briefly, because do you find, and you did say it, but I just want you to just, you know, reiterate it, because of what you went through on the downward path, and then turning around and then looking at it again, and then reconnecting and getting back onto the path, into the garden of the Creator, that you find your health issues then started to improve. So as I'm right hearing that, that when you are on that spiritual level and a better consciousness, a lot of things correct itself externally and internally.
Yes, once again, well said and very, very true. I mean, in the ultimate sense, and I did have this belief tested, but in the ultimate sense, like things come from the mind of God, however you conceive it, they start to manifest energetically. And then at some level, they take like physical form. Now, my experience was like, hey, I feel like my heart is open and I get it. So like, why am I having these experiences? Like, why would I create this experience for myself? Why I don't feel like I need to learn this lesson. And I'm still not entirely sure why, but I do trust there is a why. And now I'm just starting to see, look, if you just let the energy flow through you, whatever it takes, then a lot of what are ultimately not the real illness, but just symptoms of a deeper illness will be minimized or take care of themselves, or at the very least, think the energy will flow around it. You'll have perspective. You'll understand why you might need to live with certain things because of how it serves the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. You gotta let your soul shine. You gotta let the light come in. You gotta let it flow through you. And the more of that flow, the less illusion of separation, the more connection to all that infinite source power and everything. And that's what healing is.
Yeah. Because we are ultimately energy. Everything is energy. The table is energy. The curtain behind you is energy. Your shirt is energy. Your body, your skin, color is energy, just vibrating and flowing on in deep different frequencies. So when we become sick and things go wrong, it's because the energy that's creating our body, our liver, our kidney, the table, whatever, is at an imbalance. When things are balanced, then everything is equal, so to speak. It's balanced. Our sadness, our sickness, our anger, our pain are all imbalances that are showing us things are not right, and we need to rebalance.
Yes, very true. Like balance is such an inherent part of letting the energy flow, because it has its own consciousness, and it knows how to balance, because it's inherent in well-being to have a balance. That doesn't mean 50-50 of anything. It's balance. It's dynamic equilibrium.
Whatever it is, it knows its own balance.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, to me, I mean, balance is like the ability to like shift into whatever you need, for your body to shift into it, for your heart to shift in, or whatever in that moment, and then to be able to expand or shift to some other state as needed. There's like kind of an inherent resilience and flexibility in health, within health. So the opposite of that is getting contracted, rigid, locked in, and then we start, hope dims, depression, surges, all of these things that you touched on.
So many different things. So Troy, you've gone through so much and you've reached the stage. What are you doing now? Is it something that people can connect with you? Because we've heard so many, you've really shown us how you started so, I say started so well. You started in a family of wealth and having so much. You've gone down, you're finding your own way, and now you've come to this point, which so many of us are going through, and not starting from wealth, but of finding that way in our spiritual path. What are you doing now that maybe somebody can connect with you or whatever? Tell us what you're doing, where it's brought you today.
Thank you for that. First, just to clarify, I did not come from wealth. I came from poverty. I came from well below the poverty line. But again, on surface level, I can pass, you might say, right? So in my life, I've been able, I can put on nice clothes and go into a certain neighborhood and pretend or whatever, like I've had that access. But
Yeah.
there was, again, a lot of strife and suffering, and just the usual kind of, white trash stuff, basically, ignorance and all of it. So, look, I'm 57, I'll be 58 in a couple of months. I've busted out, I've been down, I've been high up, I've lived large, I've lived small, I've lived all over the world. I'm not here like patting myself on the back. I'm just saying this is just how it turned out. And in that lack of convention, and in all those different cultures and all those different lifestyles and all the experiences of, like, scraping by, and then suddenly having, like, being surrounded by comfort and luxury and all of it in between, there's just this perspective that comes with it. And it's one that comes with an enormous amount of acceptance and allowing and humility and understanding, and really just like, look, we're one, it is one, we forget, let's remember together.
Yeah.
And whatever else I might call what I do, and all the tools and techniques and everything else that I've learned or gleaned or practiced, that's the essence of it. We're all just walking each other home, as one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Ram Dass, put it.
Yeah.
And then, the rest is just details. And I'm in the process of rebranding, but I have a website called wisdomwarriorcoaching.com.
Yeah.
And most of, what I'm bringing forth here is reflected in some way on the website. And I'm here in Bali, and I'm getting reconnected with venues and, doing stuff on the ground here. And I suspect there's going to be quite a blooming that's occurring as far as, like, my offering, my service, my work in the world. But for now, it's a decent business card, that website.
So if people want to connect with you, they should go to wisdomwarriorcoaching.com.
Please.
Okay. And I'm sitting here thinking, this has been so wonderful, because the whole world is going through so much, and you touched on so much, and it's reality. And I so appreciate when you said that, it's a few people that are really pulling the strings in this world. But when we wake up, when as many of us can wake up and we find ourselves, we stand up strong, we stand up firm and unwavering, we can really topple that, because our attitude is different. Our wants and our needs come from a different source, and we can topple that. We shouldn't fear.
I love that.
Get back
to
connecting with the Creator. We need that mindset to reconnect with the Creator, to spiritually sit down and find out in our own way, in your own quiet, how do you reconnect with the Creator to be your true self, who you really are? Because individually, you, me, we are awesome. We are powerful. We
are awesomeness itself. We are power itself. We are all that is. Anything less than that is a limited belief that we've taken on, and a lot of those limited beliefs, as you are alluding to, have been put on us and in us by people that need to experience being more powerful than someone else, to controlling people, which of course shows their own lack of evolution and consciousness. And just to add something to what you said, if I may, this whole, like, left and right, and in our country, red and blue, that's all just divide and conquer strategy. The only separation, it's still an illusion, it's top and bottom. There's a very, very tiny few at the top, and they are creating this whole game so that we are separated and fighting amongst ourselves. Because if we really, and it is going to take a spiritual awakening, if we really realize what we really are and the con job that's being put on us, these people would have no power. They would be relegated to their natural role in any kind of tribe, which would be like unwell, isolated for their own protection, so they don't infect other people. And the small, undeveloped, deeply traumatized humans that they are.
Yeah. And you put it so beautifully when you say this divide of Democrats, Republicans, Labour, Conservative, it doesn't matter where you are all over the world. At the end, it's top and bottom. So when you think you have choice, really, you don't have choice. Because when push comes to shove, those people who we're looking to are the same people that we really don't need. And it's time we open our eyes and see it.
Yeah.
Troy, I have to say thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been over an hour, and it's wonderful, wonderful. And we're definitely going to keep in touch.
Oh, please do.
Because we're just part of the light that's shining in this world to try and connect with people all over to help the individual to wake up. And we're not saying come to us, go to him. There's quite a few of us. It is for you to sit down individually and find your way home. Our voices are there to help you to find your way home. And I hope that this program and all those that I've put out and people like Troy and all the others I've interviewed that you see, they're all there. We're all here to help you find your connection back to the Creator and find your way home. So for now, Troy McFadden in Bali, thank you very much. And myself, Zenzi Sewa here in Thailand. And I will be back in London in over a week. But for now, thanks you everybody for joining in. Thank you all at this time. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.